Aquarius. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for April of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco.
Well, hey Aquarius, this month's horoscope brings a lot of focus to your finances and also communications. If this horoscope brings up questions, we have answers, and you can get a more in-depth look at your own chart personally in a natal and transit reading where we can thoroughly discuss your situation and prospects. You'll find a link for that in the YouTube description below. Well, I've got a couple of moons to tell you about, more moons than usual, actually, because an eclipse season is beginning. And so I want to begin with the new moon in Aries of March 31st, even though I know that it is over. It happened so recently that we're still reverberating with it, and we didn't report it in last month's horoscope. So on the 31st here, you see that the moon and the sun are together in Aries in the third house. And this moon we're calling honest words, clear intentions, because of the emphasis on Aries and the way that Aries is just so direct and forthright. Wonderful traits, but can also be blunt or alternatively sharp. And there's a very strong communication theme here because Mercury is involved with this moon, and the whole thing is landing in your third house of communication. So under this moon, consider what seeds of communication that you plant, and plant seeds of honesty, but not seeds of sharpness. The next moon I want to tell you about happens on the 16th. And this one is a full moon in Libra, covering houses 9 and 3. So the moon appears over here in the 9th house, while the sun remains in the 3rd house. And this one we're calling intimacy and restraint. There are a lot of relationship themes with this moon because it's a moon in Libra. And because that moon then also trines Juno and Saturn, which are very social, and Juno in particular has a lot to do with committed relationship. So there's a very strong relational theme here, but also the potential for some real drama because the moon is squared by Pluto right here. And yeah, so this could really kick up some high emotion in your relationships, but that could also clear the way for a wonderful purge leading to a new state of diplomacy, shall we say. So, and then the third moon I want to tell you about is happening on the 30th. This is a new moon and solar eclipse. And it's moved on into the 4th house. The sun and the moon join up here in the sign of Taurus in the 4th house. And a lot of planets are here in the 4th house. And that is the domain of home and family, domestic life, heritage, and roots. Now, new moons, of course, plant seeds of new beginnings, but this isn't just any new moon, it's an eclipse. And eclipses are usually intense. They're intenser new moons. This one is a solar eclipse, which means that like all eclipses, it will show us our shadow, but being a solar eclipse, it's likely to show us our shadow through how we behave on the outside, not just how we feel on the inside. That's how a lunar eclipse is, but this is a solar eclipse. So watch your behavior in your home life and consider how your shadow may escape its cage, and that you may show some behavior in your home life that you maybe wished that you hadn't. So watch out for that. We're calling that one change through peaceful stubbornness. And if you want to know why, you should check out the video about it on our April 2022 news playlist on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, and also in our forecast page this month. The last little piece that I want to tell you before I throw the ball over to Julia is that Ceres, the cultivator, is in Gemini all month, and she's been there for quite some time, having gone retrograde and direct in Gemini. So she's been passing along through your 5th house, but will be moving on into your 6th house next month in May. So stay tuned for more about that. Hey, Julia, what's up with Mercury, Venus, and Mars for the Aquarians of the world?
Well, lots of stuff is happening this month, Aquarius, especially Mercury. Mercury is moving through 3 houses in 1 month, which means that it's moving super fast in the sky. And when Mercury is moving super fast in the sky, it's kind of like the opposite of a Mercury retrograde, where it's moving backwards and kind of slows down. So with Mercury moving so fast, that means all Mercury related things. Mercury represents communication, technology, on learning and writing. All of those things will actually be moving a lot more smoothly this month. So the month starts off with Mercury in your 3rd house. This is the house of siblings, your neighborhood, including your neighbors. It also rules short journeys and learning. And Mercury just spends maybe the first few days of the month in the 3rd house. We really went into depth about what this transit would feel like in last month's video. So if you want to check those out to hear a little bit more about that, I encourage you to go back. But what's most important to know is that on April 2nd, we're having Greater Epiphany Day. And that's when Mercury is exactly conjoined the sun. And it's kind of like these Epiphany days are kind of like bookends of Mercury's cycle. So this is the close of an old cycle and the beginning of the new one. And this Epiphany Day is happening in your 3rd house. So around the 2nd of April, you might have some clarification and aha moments. Or what's another way of looking at Epiphany days? It could be days where you just, what was that?
Insight.
Insight, exactly, like where you just kind of, things just start making sense. Since it's happening in your 3rd house, these insights could relate to your siblings, let's say. Maybe they have to do with your community, your local surroundings. They might have to do with some little trips you want to go on. And the 3rd house also rules writing. So maybe some writing project that you're working on too. Now on April 10th, Mercury moves into your 4th house. This is the house of family and home. It's a very personal house, and it can even represent your past. So with Mercury in the 4th house from the 10th to the 29th, your mind could be very preoccupied on something from the past, maybe thinking about your own early life. Mercury in the 4th house is also a time where you might experience increased communication with the people that you live with, or even your family members as well too. And another possible way Mercury in the 4th might work out for you this month is it could be a time where you're really thinking about your home environment a lot. Maybe you're thinking about moving to the next place, or maybe you're thinking about doing some home improvements to make your house more satisfying, all that kind of stuff. And then at the very tail end of the month on April 29th, Mercury is going to jump into your 5th house of fun, which is a very fun transit. And we're really going to go into a lot of depth of that in next month's video, because it's going to mostly take place next month. Now let's talk about Venus. She's the planet of relationships, so everyone likes to know what's going on with Venus. And wherever we have her, we can experience a little bit of pleasure and luck. And for the first few days of the month, she's in your 1st house, meaning that you're really projecting Venus out to a lot of people for the first 4 or 5 days of April. Wonderful time to take a lot of photos because you're looking really good. Then on April 5th, Venus is going to shift into your 2nd house of money and possessions. And that's where she's going to stay for the rest of the month. So when Venus is in your 2nd house, you could get a little extra luck with money. You know, maybe things are going well for you at work or in your business, or it could be, you know, maybe somebody gives you a nice gift, because the 2nd house can also represent possessions. And Venus in the 2nd house is also a really nice time for spending money on luxury types of items, maybe buying art, because Venus represents art. But any kind of shopping you do this month, I think, is just going to be kind of satisfying and fun with Venus in your 2nd. But let's also talk about Mars, who's totally different than Venus. Mars is about action, energy. It's also a little bit conflict-ridden too at times. And Mars begins in your chart in your 1st house for the first 14 days of the month. So with Mars in the 1st house, you know, the 1st house is the house of self. So when you have a planet in the 1st house, you really project that planet out, you know, through your own personal actions in that month. So with Mars in the 1st, you know, you this can be kind of a high energy period where you're a lot more willing to kind of assert yourself, maybe be a lot more active, maybe stand up for yourself a lot more, which is a really, really great constructive use of the transit. But Mars in the first can also go a little overboard at times, might kind of shoot first and ask questions later, let's say, maybe a little less diplomatic. So as long as you kind of know to sort of reel those ponies in a little bit, Mars in the first can also be a great time for really getting active. So get that energy out through a bike ride or a workout routine. And then by the 14th, Mars is going to shift into your second house, also joining Venus in there. So with Mars in the second house, you might feel very driven towards money this month. Maybe you're feeling very driven to kind of earn more or to kind of go out and expand your business in some way. Mars in the second house can sometimes run into issues with conflicts over money too. But, you know, with Venus in there, because, you know, you got both these planets in the second, you know, it probably won't be quite as rough because Venus tends to sort of smooth things over. But yeah, money and possessions are going to be kind of a central theme in this month for you, Aquarius.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about Juno, which is, she's right here. She's the goddess of committed relationship. She is a social maven. She weaves the fabric of society together. She's a matchmaker. And wherever she goes, she asks, how can you manage the social affairs of this house better or conduct its affairs in good partnership? And this month she's moving into Pisces, has been traveling along through your first house for some time, which I talked about back in February in the February horoscope. So you should check that out. And then she moves into Pisces right about here in the final third of the month. And Juno's going to be in Pisces for a long time, several months, really much of the rest of the year. And that's because she's going to go forward into Pisces and then turn retrograde and spend a retrograde stint here. And so this being the house of money, basically it's the house of your own money, the money that's yours, the possessions that are yours. It's the house of your body and also your eating, your life as a sensory creature. And so Juno here suggests that you're going to be thinking in some very concrete and security-based terms relative to your relationship. When Juno goes retrograde, she's going to put everybody in the world into a state of retrospection about relationships. She does this every year or so. And whatever house that she does that in is usually the topic of, what about that in my relationship? How's that going, actually? And in your case, it's got to do with money and finances. So get ready for that because it's coming down the pike. Retrospection on that. Then the next thing I want to tell you about is that the sun is entering Taurus, and you see here as of April 20th, it has just done that. So this is the seasonal change. Aries is over as of the 20th. Taurus begins. This is a wonderful season of flowers and baby bunnies and the heat and light increasing. Such a beautiful season, like where we really experience the great green earth. At least to be clear, those of us in the northern hemisphere experience that, whereas in the southern hemisphere, you get the seasons opposite, obviously. But wherever the sun goes, we want to shine the light of our high quality attention. We want to allow things to grow in that area by how we pay attention to them. And in particular, Taurus is so good at cultivation. Taurus is the farmer of the zodiac. And this is happening in your fourth house, which is your home, your family, your heritage, your children, if you have any, your whole domestic sphere. And so during the month of Taurus, from about April 20th and going on for about 30 days, it's really good to bring your high quality attention to your home life and figure out how it could grow to be even better than it is. Then the last thing I want to tell you about is Pluto, very, very slow moving Pluto, which is presently in Capricorn, it's getting towards the end of its sojourn through Capricorn, has been here for 13 to 15 years, since about 2008 or so. Probably no coincidence that when Pluto was entering Capricorn, we had a recession. But for you, Pluto has been passing through your 12th house of the hidden. This is a house of secrets. This is a house of the unconscious. Pluto has been unearthing and sort of like causing a die-off and a rebirth of many things in this house over the last decade plus. And this month it's going to turn retrograde, which it does every year, and triggering a period of a deepening of that transformation. If you are having a Pluto transit this year to an actual planet in your chart, then you would probably want to know about it. There's a link in the YouTube description below pointing to our Pluto page where you can find out if you're having a Pluto transit and what to do if you are, because transformation is going on and it's going to deepen and intensify until October. Well, that's what we have for you today, Aquarius. Hope you enjoyed it. You can always find your horoscopes on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscope tab. And if you want to get a reading with us, then you could find us on the readings tab. And also we offer classes. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.